good to have you join me on Global News on Zoom on Nigeria. We begin with 2 injured in US-Israeli raid on Syria. India tells Canada to pull out 41 diplomats. Ecuador's final presidential debate. Crime, economy, focus. Bangladesh's worst ever dengue killed over 1,000 people. And Republican guards moves to oust US House Speaker. 2 Syrian soldiers have been wounded following an Israeli air raid on military posts in Syria's eastern Deir az-Zor region, report said, citing a military source. Report said from the newest attack by Israel was carried out at 23:50 p.m. local time on Monday. The Israeli enemy launched an air attack on some of our armed forces sites in the vicinity of Deir az-Zor, and the aggression led to the injury of 2 soldiers and some material losses, reports said. The United Kingdom-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said 3 explosions were reported near the positions of Iranian-backed armed groups in Deir az-Zor near the Syrian-Iraq border in an attack carried out by unidentified warplanes. Iranian militias are deployed near the targeted positions where the members move from Iraq to Syria and vice versa through illegal routes, the observatory said, noting that drones attacked targets in the province in early September. The aim was a house where weapons were reportedly stored in Deir az-Zor city, the observatory said. Israel has for years carried out unacknowledged attacks in Syria against what it has described as Iran-linked targets amidst Tehran's growing influence in the country since it began supporting President Bashar al-Assad in the civil war that started in 2011. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli army on the latest attack, according to report. Late last month, Israel's military said that its tanks had destroyed 2 Syrian structures in the Golan Heights. The tanks attacked a location on the Syrian side of the demarcation line between the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights to the west and Syrian-controlled territory to the east, the Israeli military said. Hundreds of thousands of people have died and millions have been made homeless since protests against Assad's rule first erupted in 2011 and have since developed into a civil war that has drawn in foreign powers, including Russia, and left Syria carved into zones of control. India has told Canada that it must deport 41 diplomats by October 10th, according to reports. Relations between India and Canada have become strained over Canadian suspicion that Indian government agents had a role in the June murder of British Columbia of a Sikh separatist leader and Canadian citizen Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who Indian had labelled a terrorist because of his advocacy for Khalistan, an independent Sikh state. India has discharged the murder allegation as absurd. Reports quoting people familiar with the Indian demand reported on Tuesday that India had threatened to revoke the diplomatic immunity of those diplomats told to leave if they remained after October 10th. Canada has 62 diplomats in India, and India had said that that total should be reduced by 41, reports said. The Indian and Canadian foreign ministries did not quickly react to the report. India Foreign Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar said earlier there was a climate of violence and an atmosphere of intimidation against Indian diplomats in Canada, where the presence of Sikh separatist groups has frustrated New Delhi. Canada is home to around 770,000 Sikhs, the highest population outside the northern Indian state of Punjab, and the Indian government has for decades voiced its displeasure with some community members outspoken support for Khalistan. There are 15 Sikh members in Canada's House of Commons, over 4% of the seats, while comprising only about 2% of the Canadian population. A rebellion seeking a Sikh homeland of Khalistan killed tens of thousands in the 1980s and 1990s and was crushed by India. It has almost no support in Punjab today. India accused Niger of making hateful speeches in 2020 and seditionary and insurrectionary imputations and designated him as being involved in terrorism. On elections, Luisa Gonzalez and Daniel Noboa, the final 2 Ecuadorian presidential candidates, have faced each other in the last debate before the runoff election on October 15th. Sunday night's debate gave both candidates a platform to tackle long-simmering issues in the country, like growing rates of violent crime and the struggling economy. but whoever wins the race faces an unconventional and abbreviated presidential term. Outgoing President Guillermo Lasso introduced elections in May when he became the first president in Ecuador's history to invoke a constitutional mechanism known as two-way death, which dissolved the National Assembly but also cut short his term. The winner in the upcoming election will only serve for the remainder of Lasso's time in office until 2025. In a 17-month government, we need to confront the urgencies, lower violence and youth unemployment, and form new work opportunities, Noboa said during Sunday's debate. For the centrist Noboa 35 and the left-leaning Gonzalez 45 differed on what those abroad needs should be and how they could be addressed. On health issues, official data shows over 1,000 people have died from dengue in Bangladesh's worst outbreak in record, with rising temperatures due to the climate crunch driving the ongoing spread as more cases are reported away from dense urban centers for the first time. According to figures from Bangladesh Directorate General of Health Services released on Monday, since January 1st, 2017, people have died from the mosquito-borne disease, including over 100 children, with infections growing over 208,000. While dengue fever is endemic in the South Asian country, with infections typically topping during the monsoon season between July and September. This year, the uptick in cases began much earlier, toward the end of April. A prolonged monsoon season that saw warmer temperatures joined with irregular, heavy rainfall created ideal breeding conditions for the Aedes mosquito, which carries the dengue disease, scientists say. According to reports, the influx of patients has stressed the country's healthcare system, and hospitals have faced a shortage of beds and staff to care for them. Fatalities from the outbreak are nearly 4 times higher than last year, when 281 people died. In September alone, there were over 79,600 reported cases and 396 deaths, according to Bangladesh health authorities. There is also rising concern about the outbreak spilling into the cooler months. Last year, dengue cases only peaked in October, with most deaths recorded in November. A viral infection, dengue caused flu-like symptoms, including person headaches, muscle and joint pains, fever, and in some cases, internal bleeding and death. It is transmitted to humans through the bites of an infected Aedes mosquito, and there is no specific treatment for the disease. Dengue, also known as breakbone fever, is endemic in more than 100 countries, and every year 100 million to 400 million people become infected, according to the World Health Organization, WHO. Talking politics, in the United States, a hard-right lawmaker has launched a bid to oust House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy in the most extremely showdown yet within the Republican Party, as it grapples to contain firebrand supporters of ex-President Donald Trump. Late on Monday, Matt Gaetz, a representative from Florida and Trump loyalist, entered a resolution from the House floor setting in motion a snap vote that is likely to take place in the coming days. I have enough Republicans where at this point next week, one of two things will happen. Kevin McCarthy won't be the Speaker of the House, or he will be the Speaker of the House working at the pleasure of the Democrats, Gaetz said afterwards outside the Capitol, report said. McCarthy responded minutes later on social media. He said, "Bring it on." Gaetz, who has clashed with McCarthy for months, soon retorted in a post just did. The lawmaker's step comes after the Speaker brokered a last-minute deal with the Democrats to make sure the passage of a temporary spending bill to avert a government shutdown, despite opposition from a hardcore group on the Republican right. A faction of around 20 Republicans, including Gaetz, had forced McCarthy's hand by repeatedly blocking other legislation. Republicans control the chamber by a narrow of 221 to 212 majority. Some who have aligned with Gaetz on spending cuts or other priorities have said they will not back him in the effort to remove the Speaker. "It's a really bad idea," said Kentucky Representative Thomas Massey, but others are more keen. Longtime McCarthy critic Bob Good from Virginia said the weekend deal with the Democrats to keep the government running without including any of the conservatives' political priorities was just another reason for him to vote for the Speaker's removal. And here is more stories. Delhi police search homes of renowned journalists. Police in India have raided the homes of many prominent journalists and authors in linking with a probe into the funding of news website NewsClick. On Tuesday, the searches took place in the capital, Delhi, and those searched had their mobiles and laptops seized. Officials are reportedly investigating allegations that NewsClick got illegal funds from China, a charge it denies. Critics say the move is an intentional attack on press freedom. Among those who have reportedly been raided are NewsClick editor Prabir Purkayashta, journalist Abhisa Sharma, Undindio Chakravarti and Bash Singh, popular satirist Sanjay Sarjora and historian Sohail Hashmi. Some of them have been taken to police station for questioning. The police have not yet commented on the raids, but Sharma confirmed the development on X, formerly Twitter, and said the police had taken away his phone and laptop. Singh also wrote that police had seized her phone. Searches were also underway at the website's office in Delhi, reports said. According to more reports, the raids are taking place in connection with a case registered against NewsClick in August after a New York Times report alleged that the website had received funds from an American millionaire to spread Chinese propaganda. The report claimed that Neville Roy Singham worked closely with the Chinese government media machine and used his network of non-profit groups and shell companies to finance its propaganda worldwide. On 17th August, a case was registered and the police invoked UAPA, a draconian anti-terrorism law which makes it almost impossible to get bail against the website and its journalists. NewsClick has strongly denied all the charges as false. Since Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to power in 2014, a number of media outlets have been probed by the government for financial impropriety, raising concerns about press freedom in the world's largest democracy. Reports Without Borders, an advocacy group for journalists, has placed India as 161st place in its press freedom rankings this year. It said the situation in the country has deteriorated from problematic to very bad and compared it with Tajikistan at 153rd and Turkey at 165th. In African scenes, Egypt's El-Sisi announces bid for third term. On Monday, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah El-Sisi confirmed he will run for a new term imposed scheduled for December. The president declared his candidacy at the end of a three-day national conference called The Story of Homeland, attended by the country's leading politicians. I have decided to nominate myself to you to complete the dream of a new presidential term, El-Sisi said at the conference's attendees cheered and clapped. Egypt will hold a presidential election over 3 days on December 10th to 12th, with a runoff on January 8th to 10th if no candidate secures over 50% of the vote. I promise you, God willing, that it will be an extension of our common quest for the sake of Egypt and its people, El-Sisi said. Egypt's presidential election will take place in December rather than in the spring of 2024, as the constitution permits, a deadline shortened by economic considerations in the country caught between inflation and devaluation, according to observers. El-Sisi enters the race as the clear favorite. He will be running at a time when purchasing power is steadily corroding in the country. Of 105 million inhabitants, inflation is running at 40%, and the 50% devaluation in recent months has pushed up the price of goods and services. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll bring you more stories from Nigeria. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, stories from Nigeria says NLC shelves scheduled strike. On Monday night, the organized labor decided to suspend its indefinite strike plan for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. The resolution followed over 5 hours of negotiations between the federal government and labor at the Chief of Staff conference room of the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The Minister of Labor and Employment, Simon Lalong, announcing the outcome of the meeting, said the NLC and TUC accept to suspend for 30 days the planned indefinite nationwide strike scheduled to begin on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. Lalong said the memorandum shall be filed with the appropriate court of competent jurisdiction within 1 week as a consent judgment by the federal government. The NLC President Joe Ajaero, however, said the unions will revisit the agreement if the federal government failed to fulfill its demands. Now, at least 17 killed in Rivers pipeline blast. 15 people alongside 2 pregnant women were killed on Sunday following pipeline explosion due to illegal refining of crude oil at Rumokolu village in Iba community of the Moha local government area of Rivers State. Sources in the community said, according to reports, that the blast happened when suspected illegal oil bunkers tried to set up illegal refinery sites at the said location. It was gathered that operatives of the 26th Supporter Engineer Regiment SER Nigerian Army Engineers, in collaboration with the surveillance firm Pipeline Infrastructures Nigeria Limited (PINL), and had about 2 weeks ago unveiled massive and intensive clampdown and demolition of illegal refineries along the right-of-way and its corridor. The sources stated that the accident could be connected to fear of a clampdown or apprehension, as PINL and GSA maintain presence all around the clock, especially at night. A representative of PINL, who spoke at the scene of the incident, said the company, in cooperation with the security agencies, have been destroying illegal refineries in the area for the past 6 months. He indicated that the feedback from some community members showed the victims were burnt due to the illegal refining at the location, as the illicit business was hastily being carried out for fear of the surveillance company. And finally, on the news, federal government starts extradition process for Dizzani. Yesterday, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) said it had obtained an arrest warrant and has also begun extradition processes against ex-Minister of Petroleum Resources Dizzani Alison Madueke. The anti-graft agency said it was happy with her arraignment at the Westminster Court in London, United Kingdom, following suspected bribery accusations. Michael Snow, the district judge, granted her £70,000 bail, describing her as a flight risk. Other conditions enacted on her are 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew and electronic tag that she must wear at all times. Britain's NCA alleged that Madueke accepted bribes during her time as Minister of Petroleum Resources in exchange for awarding multi-million-dollar oil and gas contracts. District Attorney alleged that she accepted $100,000 in cash, access to numerous number of homes, luxury holidays and private flights. They also alleged she accepted goods from high-end stores like Cartier and Louis Vuitton. She has been on bail in London since she was arrested in 2015. The allegations by the prosecutor include collection of rewards like furniture, renovation work and staff for her properties, and payment of private school fees. She has denied all corruption charges. Her next appearance will be at Southwark Crown Court on October 30th. Dele Oyewole, acting EFCC spokesman, in a statement in Abuja said to bring the former minister to trial in Nigeria, an arrest warrant has been obtained and extradition proceedings have been initiated. The commission is on course on her trial. She will soon have her day in our courts. He said though the charges preferred against her at the London court are diametrically different from the 13-count charges bordering on money laundering the EFCC has raised against her, it is instructive to note that criminality is criminality irrespective of jurisdictional differences. He said no crime can go unpunished. The money laundering charges for which Madueke is answerable to the EFCC cover jurisdiction in Dubai, United Kingdom, United States of America, and Nigeria. Madueke was the first female to hold the position of the chairperson of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries (OPEC), and her arraignment followed years of probing by Britain's National Crime Agency and Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC). Evidence in the case is anticipated to shed more light on the alleged corrupt practices over a period of 5 years. To refresh our memories, 2 injured in US-Israeli raid on Syria. India tells Canada to pull out 41 diplomats. Ecuador's final presidential debate, crime economy focus. Bangladesh's worst ever dengue killed over 1,000 people. Republican Guyot moves to oust US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching. I am Lois Drake.